Okay, hello. Welcome in. So, I got... Before this stream, a friend of mine gifted me a game. And because they gifted me that game, I now have an extra life for to add to this. However, the game they gifted me was... the Communist Manifesto, Dami Mommy Kami Adventure. So I don't think I can play that on stream. But to that friend, who they know who they are, thank you for the game, I guess. It cost them like $1.25, so I will add one life onto this. And one life to the donation goal. Oh, well, it was like $1.25, so yeah, I will add one life to this, my remaining lives, and let me add $1.25 to the donation goal. So, thanks for that. We're now... So yes, thank you. Thanks to my friend, and it's one of my friends who watches the stream. So it's one of my friends who watches the stream. So they knew this would happen. But because they did this, well, actually, let me see. Okay, 624 plus 125. That is like... Well, no, it's 624.69 plus 125. So that would be 625 and 94 cents. So yes, thank you to my friend who has been watching this playthrough for gifting me the Communist Manifesto, Dami Mommy Kami Adventure. Because that's in my Steam library. That's in my Steam library now. And I will be honest, there are some lewd games I have in my Steam library, so it's not that. It's not that. It's just that this game is literally just like it's literally a visual novel of someone reading Karl Marx's the Communist Manifesto, but they're a MILF. But instead of Karl Marx reading it, it's a MILF reading it. So I don't know when I'm gonna. I don't know if I'm even. Well, I guess I'll have to at least try it now. I guess this does lie with quite a few of my interests. Slim says, honestly, there's worse visual novels out there. Oh, I know. Yeah, I know. Something I don't mention. Like I said, I will be honest. I do have some lewd games on my PC. Heck, y'all know one of them, Baldur's Gate 3. I consider that a lewd game. There's sex in that game. But I also have lewd games or NSFW or adult games. I have options for that turned on my Steam browser on Steam, because there are some really interesting games, and there are a lot of games that deal with really poignant issues that are in that area. Also, sometimes you just want a horny game. So I have that turned on. However, when I play demos for Steam Next Fest, there are also demos. I also, because I have this turned on, I also see the demos for the lewd games, and my gosh, some of them are actually really interesting. Some of them make me very worried. Tis the nature of Steam. Hey, Solariel, welcome in. Hope you're doing well. So yeah, because if you're just tuning in, and wondering what's going on here. So this is the... Amelia says, at least this one is educational. Oh, hey, Amelia. Yeah. So says, sometimes you get Playboy for the article, surely. Man, I don't think... Ever since lewd animators started being able to freely release videos on the internet, is there even a reason to get Playboy? Like, who would get Playboy anymore right now? If you want the article, even if you get it for the article, like, the only reason I could see right now to get it would be for the articles, if you're interested in that. Anyway, so yeah, if this is your first time watching this, so this is the Bloodborne Emergency Donathon. I'm playing through Bloodborne for the first time with a limited number of lives left. And every single time I die, I lose a life. I've only got about 111 lives left, so I have to beat the remaining bosses in Bloodborne with only 111 lives left. Also, every dollar donated will count towards these donation goals, and also add in more lives. Every dollar donated will add more lives to the to this Bloodborne playthrough. And also, I'm gonna post this again, but also, if I manage to beat Bloodborne with my remaining number of lives, then those lives will carry over into Donothon Arc 2, which y'all will actually get to vote on. So if you haven't yet, make sure to go vote on that poll I just posted in the Twitch chat, if you're watching this on Twitch. So, yeah, your options, just for those who don't know what the options are, or one level of explanation. So the options you have are, first is From Software Dungeon Crawler Roulette Donathon. This would be, if this wins, then I'd go back and play a bunch of the old From Software Dungeon Crawlers. Which is kind of like, one of these is the Kingsfield tetralogy, or quadrilogy. Which is the, Kingsfield 1 is the very first game From Software ever made. So we would be going, so if this wins, I'd be going back, all the way back to the very first game From Software ever made, as well as the 3 other Kingsfield games and the 2 Shadow Tower games, which are kind of spiritual sequels, spiritual successors to the Kingsfield series. The second option, if this wins, is an Armored Core Roulette Donathon. These first 2 Donathons, if either of them were to win, whenever I die, not only would I lose a life, I would also have to spin a roulette wheel. I'd also have to spin a roulette wheel, and whatever game I land on, that one I'd have to pick up and continue until I die. This one is similar to the first one, just instead of Kingsfield and Shadow Tower, it's a bunch of Armored Core games. The third option is the Jump Force Donathon, where I'd have to play through all the story missions in Jump Force, and every time I lose a mission, I'd lose a life. And the last option is XCOM 2 Donathon, where if this wins, then I play through XCOM 2's story for the first time, and well, mostly for the first time. I have played a little bit of XCOM 2, and then also every time a character dies, I would lose a life. So not just every time I lose a mission, it'd be every time a character dies, then I would lose a life. So he says, in the least creepy way I can mean this, I think it would speak to ownership, especially if you pay cash for it, so Visa, MasterCard can't just say, nah, you actually can't just buy that. Yeah, because of the whole, Visa and MasterCard pushing for a censorship thing, I'm trying to be basically, I'm trying to be more open to talking about NSFW stuff on this, because as we've learned, due to our politicians in America, and also the people who are willing to censor people on the internet, or people censor consenting adults for no reason. There's a lot worse things you could be than being into some weird kinks. Okay, so if you're just coming in and wondering where I'm at, Oh, also, okay, well, actually, I guess I should say this as well. Also, it'd be kind of hypocritical for me to be... Also, I guess I'm now getting more open to talking about, loot stuff on the channel, because, well, because of the Donathon, I'm gonna have to do a Pokemon Smasher Pass stream, and it'd be... Well, so now, once I do that, I can't really judge anyone. Since I'm gonna have to do that, I can't really judge anyone for what they're into. Well, no, actually, there are still some people I could judge. There are still some people I can judge. There are definitely some people I could judge for what they're into. Anyway, so we're about here. Yeah, okay, so as far as where I'm at in Bloodborne, all I have left to do is defeat the Orphan of Kos, and then which will finish the DLC, and then defeat Gurman, which will be the main... So since now you can judge, you just have to be ready for the rebuttal of weren't you into X Pokemon? That's true. But yeah, I'm gonna be... Orphan of Kos is like the last... I just have to beat Orphan of Kos, and I just have to beat... And then after that, beat Gurman. And that's it. So, yeah, if you haven't already, make sure to go vote on that poll for what you want to be the Donathon Arc 2, because as soon as I beat Gurman, that's it. Poll's closed. If you voted, poll's closed. And then, yeah, I got really close to beating Orphan of Kos last time, so let's see if I can do this well. Let's see if I can do this. I also have no idea how long this will take me. Like, it could take me all day to beat Orphan and Gurman, or I could beat both of them on my first try. I'm not sure. If I do manage to beat both of them, that will of course be the end of the Bloodborne Donathon. And depending on how much time I have left, I might just go ahead and start Donathon Arc 2. Or I might do something else. Again, depending on how much time I have left. So, anyway, let me just go ahead and jump right in. As usual, I probably won't be talking much while fighting these bosses, so I can focus on fighting them. But if I miss any chat but I'll make sure to go back and read chat messages after the fight's over. Oh, that tree... Okay, so the trees will actually block that. I was doing so well on that first phase of them. Dang it. Okay, that's... Let me check. That means I'm back down to 110 lives. Okay. Sleep says, solid effort. First attempt at getting to phase 2 is a solid, great starting point for the day. You're right. You're right. But I want to get rid of this thing as soon as possible. I'm impatient right now. I'm so close to the end of this game that I'm so close to the end to finishing this game that I'm getting impatient, so I can finally be done with it. Okay, we're gonna try that again. So I'm back down to 110 lives left. could someone get rid of that bot that just showed up in the chat? I guess. Okay, oh, thank you, Sleepless. Okay, 109 lives left, then. Yeah, only about 109 lives left. Yeah, I've only got about 109 lives left. Which means I have 109 lives to beat this thing and then Gurman. $108 lives left. Sleepless says, "You getting better, bro? You leave the chat up to me. I'll take care of suspicious messages." Appreciate it, Sleepless. Thank you. And hopefully it will not take me all stream to beat this thing and then Gurman. But this is kind of the only thing I can do tonight. Like, I have to... This is kind of the only thing I can do for this. Like, all I have left to do in this game is beat Orphan of Kos, and beat Gurman. And well, I was told that as soon as I beat Gurman, that the new game the game will end. Which is, if that's the case, then that means, yeah, my only option is keep fighting Orphan of Kos until I kill them, and then go fight Gurman. Because if I beat Gurman before this thing, that means that I don't beat the DLC. Sleepless says, maybe a blessing, maybe a curse, but cost doesn't really hold his attacks. What do you mean by that? Okay, 107 lives left. Sleep says, like he doesn't hold in an attack waiting for you to blink or relax, burn your frames, and then be punishable for missing your chance. Sleepless, if you're gonna... I know you like to lie to me when I'm playing these sorts of games, but you gotta make the lies more believable. He does hold his attacks. He'll wind up for an attack. He'll wind up for an attack and then unleash it at just the right moment. Okay, 106 lives left. Oh my gosh, I've already lost 5 lives. And we're not even done with the first hour of the stream. Ah, jeez. I'm hoping this doesn't take me all night, but it might. Yeah, I'm hoping this doesn't take me all day, but I'm worried that it might. Yeah, although, okay, so I've only got 106 lives left, but if you'd like to add more lives, and to make this, to give me a better chance of beating this boss, I remember that every dollar donated will add more lives to this playthrough. Yeah, this is, all I've got left is just fighting Koss and then fighting Gurman, so if I can beat these two, then that'll be it. And we can move on to Donothon Arc 2. Doesn't hold his attacks. Doesn't hold his attacks, he says. Sleep says, in terms of Bloodborne, how's everyone doing today? I got brunch and had something called $1 Million potatoes. Some skillet reds, Monterey Jack cheese, green onion, and candy bacon. Also got them with some biscuits and gravy and eggs. Ooh, does sound delicious. I hope it didn't cost $1 million. Well, besides the Bloodborne, I'm rushing through to try and get a couple things done that I want to get done by the end of the month. Because, like, I don't know if I'm going to have 6 weeks of training or 8 weeks of training. But at some point, I'm going to shift over from this training schedule to the actual work schedule, and that's going to impede, like, when I can do things. And there's some things I'd really like to get done by the end of the month. So I actually haven't been able to watch much of the shows I want to. I did take the time because I've already, like, read through the manga. I did watch through, like, all the way through the Kengan Ashura anime. And then, like, caught up on Kengan Omega, and dang. I didn't realize not until, like, I was reading the sequel manga and watching the original anime side by side, I didn't realize how bad Kengan Ashura's anime looked until I, like, really looked through it after having read the entire Ashura manga. Because the anime, it was a Netflix anime, so they tried using, like, 3D models in some areas, but then they also, like, try doing, like, 2D drawings in other areas. And it's really noticeable when a character's like a drawing versus a 3D model. I did also, although, to be fair, the Kengan Omega and manga itself isn't doing too great. The writer of Kengan has, like, one plot he really likes to tell, and it's basically that, like... And it's basically that, like, an underground martial arts like, a bunch of fighters in an underground martial arts competition fight each other, and also a cult gets involved. And he really likes doing, like, a slow build as to, like, what the cult's plans are, and it usually involves... And usually the cult... Yeah, it's usually, like, a slow build to what the cult's plans are, and he leaves a lot of mystery open. The writer of Kengan likes this one... Like, this is the plot he loves to write. And it's mainly excuse to, like, have cool and brutal martial arts fights. But the thing about King and Ashura is that, like, the focus of that manga was, like, this big 32-person, like, tournament. Like, that was the majority of the manga. And there was, like, some cult, and there was some stuff about this cult going on in the background. It wasn't really a focus. Well, now in Kengan Omega, the cult, like, the sequel manga, the cult and their side of the story is taking center stage. But what's happening because of that is because what's basically happened is there was one big tournament arc in Kengan Omega that was like this really cool arc of like all the fighters, of like our top fighters from the underground martial arts underground martial arts association that Kengan and Ashura was all about. They now have to fight all the top fighters from another underground martial arts organization that wants to compete with Kengan. And it's like this big team tournament that's really cool. It basically did Record of Ragnarok's story. Like Record of Ragnarok's story, like a lot more concisely than Record of Ragnarok, just without the whole like gods and apocalypse. And also, like what really it was better than Record of Ragnarok's attempt to the story. It was like this whole time, like there was this whole thing of like, okay, we now know, like everybody knows the cult is active, so who's fighting for the cult? Like which of these fighters for either side are secretly agents of the cult? And they have to deal with that at the same time as like this big fight for the film. And one of the strong things about King and Ashura is that, like, King and Ashura and, like, the first portion of King and Omega. Yeah, one of the strong parts about King and Ashura and King and Omega was that it really, like, there was a main character, but really it was much more ensemble cast. Like, there were like multiple chapters or arc fights in the tournament where you barely saw the main character because it was important to focus on. It was important to focus on the fighters for the match. Well, after that tournament, a problem happens in Kengan Omega. Like, okay, now the cult's being even more active because of that second tournament. Yeah, now that cult's more active, like, after the tournament. And after that point, Kengan Omega kind of runs into a big problem. In that, the series Kengan works really well when there's not really a central villain. Like, But basically, after that point, Kengan Kengan Omega runs into a problem where basically it has like so many like threads involved with the cult, and it wants to have a payoff for certain characters. So, I said earlier that Kengan doesn't work if it has a central villain. That's not entirely. I wasn't saying that correctly. What it's more like is that the writer for Kengan has difficulty setting up a major villain, because basically a lot of the major villains just get like, I mean, spoilers for Kengan Omega, but basically a lot of the major villains either just like, they either like have to fade into the background, which means they're not doing much, or they show up and then they get like beaten and then in some cases killed. So we run a case. So what happens is that Kengan Omega, after that first tournament in Kengan Omega, has like no. It has like an antagonist, and they keep mysteriously hinting at the antagonist, and the antagonist himself is all right. Well, okay, he would be a good antagonist for a different manga, because like the central antagonist for this big brutal martial arts manga is a pretty chill guy. Like this globe spanning cult that tortures, that like uses like that puts people through horrible rituals to make like child soldiers and experiment with forbidden martial arts techniques. He's kind of he's a really chill guy. He doesn't kill anyone. He doesn't really kill anyone. He like, there's multiple points where like he's hanging around the main characters and he knows who they are, but they don't know who he is. And the manga tries to build it up for like suspense, but then it really just becomes kind of a joke. It really just becomes kind of a simple joke. He ends up becoming just like, yeah, the main antagonist of this, again, a brutal martial arts manga, is like, yeah, he's just pals with the main character now. And so what happens is they keep building up like other main villains, but the issue is that they kept building up this one main villain for like all of for most of Kengan Ashura, and like up to a good point of Kengan Omega. So it's like, okay, we're bringing in these other main villains, but they don't have the buildup of this one main villain, and we have to show that they're not as strong as this other main villain that we've been building up. Which means that no matter how evil and dastardly and how much of a problem they are, it's entirely possible that the central villain of this manga could just be like, nah, I'm pals with these guys, never mind. Stop being mean to my friends. Which could work. Like, that could actually be a good like thing, that after all these characters getting involved in these big fights, the power of friendship, like this one really experienced martial artist decides to give up on his plans for world domination because he actually becomes friends with someone. Well, it's not even his plans for world domination. It's really just like the cult like tries to like go to world domination to help this guy, but he doesn't really care about dominating the world. Anyway, that's 200 chapters of the manga of Kengan Omega, and it has some other fighting competitions. But the problem is that like there's another problem where like they try to where like the manga introduces this new main character. Kengan Omega introduces this new main character who actually is a good new main character, and is like, it is very different from Kengan Ashura's main character. And honestly, the new guy would be kind of better, except that after some point they just kind of like give up on making him the main character. Like, he has some fights and competitions to himself, but then they just like stop having him as the new main character, and he just like settles into a supporting character. And again, that's 200 that's like been like 200 chapters. Kengan Omega is finally getting back on track after like chapter, like the initial tournament in Kengan Omega that was really good was like chapters 50 to 100 to like 120, and then like the next almost 200 chapters are all this like building up the cults, but then also not really and like having some fights, but not really having like a big arc or a big hook for the next arc. And then now, finally, after chapter 330, the manga is doing what it probably should have done some time ago, which is have a giant battle royale between all the martial artists, and also like this cult leader and their allies. And it looks like things are finally getting back on track, but it's really hard to, like... But it's just noticeable that, like, man, we just spent, like, 200 chapters doing not much. Again, there were, like, some fights and some building to the plot, but it really didn't feel like... It really doesn't feel like much compared to, like, the big tournaments that were the big fighting competitions, or, like, really epic fights that were happening at earlier points in Kengan. I think part of it, what happened, is that... I'm not sure if Kengan... I think what happened is, I believe Kengan Ashura wasn't on, like, a weekly schedule. It might have been on, like, a bi-weekly or monthly schedule. But because it was a popular, like, series, when they did the sequel... the writer and artist, like, had to move to a weekly schedule. And I do feel bad for this writer and artist, because it's like... They're working on, like, 3 or 4 manga right now. Well, actually, I think the artist is only working on 2 manga with this same author. But yeah, this author is working on 4 manga right now. And it's kind of clear because of, like, the schedule change that's happened to Kengan Omega, that he's not really as interested in it. Like, at least the author and I believe the artist aren't really as interested in Kengan Omega as they originally were when they started it off. And it seems like I have to read this series to be certain. I really need to start reading this series because this is a manga I'm sure I will love. But it seems like the author and artist for Kengan Ashura and Kengan Omega, they're really far more interested in one of the other series they started, which is Star Strike at Rich, which takes place in the same universe as Kengan, and is basically just like underground martial arts competitions, but all the fighters are girls. Also, there's a cult involved, because again, of course there's a cult involved. There's always a cult involved. A cult that wants to train in martial arts. Yeah, I do need to really read Star Trek Rich because it's a manga full of it's one of my favorite kinds of manga, which is just like big, goofy martial arts deathmatch manga. And this time, all the fighters are ladies, so it's gonna have a bunch of strong ladies. So, yeah, I'm sure I need to get to reading this because I'm sure when I get to it, I'm gonna love it. And I've seen some of the characters in this manga in Star Strike at Rich, and from what I've seen, there is not 1, not 2, but 3 really tall, buff ladies, muscular ladies in it. So I'm sure that when I get to it, I'm gonna... Slim says, nah, it was like $15 for the whole plate of food. I think at their own, the potatoes cost $6, though. Well, I hope. Well, glad that it wasn't $1 million then, because that does sound. Because that is. There is not any meal that would be worth a million. I don't care how good the food tastes. I don't care how good the food tastes. There is no meal that would be worth $1 million. But I am glad that you had a delicious meal. Alright, down to 103 lives. My goodness. Alright. I've lost so many lives already. Sleep says, I don't know if I'd order the rest of it again, but them $1 million potatoes are strong, maybe. No, I get that because one of my favorite things, one of my favorite like side dishes is loaded mashed potatoes, where it's like potatoes, cheese, sour cream, bacon. I love that. I know it's terrible I know it's not healthy at all, but dang is it delicious. One of the you can always rely on, like, one of the few reliable things about Texas is that it has good food, and you can almost always rely on a restaurant in Texas to have good potatoes. If you run into a restaurant in Texas that does not have good potatoes, get as far away from there as possible. Something is very wrong. That might not be a restaurant. That might be a front for another business. never get the timing down for that damned lightning. So it says, I thought we could rely on Ted Cruz travel plans if the state was in immediate danger. Well, no, okay, so you can always... No, that's not... Okay, you're onto something. You're almost there. It's not that you can't... like, that's really part of it. It's not that you could rely on Ted Cruz's travel plans to be going out of the state if the state was in immediate danger. It is you can always rely on Ted Cruz to take the path that will hurt the most children or the most people, specifically children. Whether it's leaving the state, going on vacation out of state when there are clear signs of a storm being nearby, whether it's going live on a podium and saying, hey, maybe we should stop being so mean to pedophiles, or whether it's introducing this Kids Online Safety Act that I've been shouting about people needing to talk to their senators and representatives about, and telling them to not support it. Yeah, he's one of the people who introduced it. He's one of the people who introduced... he's either one of the people who introduced it or one of the people who's, like, heavily backing it. Which is one of the reasons why I keep telling y'all to call y'all senators and representatives and just keep telling them not to support the Kids Online Safety Act, KOSA, and also to protect Section 230, which, remember, do that every chance you get. Because I'm doing that, but one of my senators is the guy who's pushing it heavily. And one of my senators, Cruz, is pushing it heavily, and the other one, Senator Corwin, is also pushing it heavily. So, every time I've called or emailed this guy, he sent the general reply email. The general reply email. So it says, I give it how incompetent it sounds. I don't think he could read the Kozak, let him write it. Okay, let me get this right, because it is... It's one of the... Basically, the two Texas senators right now are heavily, they're heavily in favor of it. So I'm still yelling about them. I'm still yelling at them about it because I'm still yelling at them about that to let them know that I'm not happy with it. But that's one of the reasons why I keep shouting about yeah, it's one of the reasons why I keep telling y'all, hey, make sure, banging a gong and saying, hey, make sure to get onto your senators and representatives to not allow this through. And to protect Section 230, because it's my senators who are heavily pushing it. But basically, as far as him being able to, yeah. Ted Cruz is one of those he's one of those So it says, Brawl, why your senators a pair of punk ass bitches? Because this state leans heavily Republican and is so entrenched in being Republican and conservative that it's so entrenched in being Republican and conservative that you have you have multiple older generations who think that being Republican and conservative will that's the better option to being Democrat, or like that's the okay, not exactly Democrat, because there are problems with Democrat with like a lot of the with a lot of the Democrat Party members. Instead of supporting instead of supporting people who are very progressive, they'll just go with the party they're familiar with, and so that just means like only paying attention to Republicans, not doing what you really should do, which is if you're voting in an election, take a look at everyone who's voting and try to weigh your options. Although, I'm hoping that... Okay, there is maybe some... There is some hopeful good news in Texas. There was a thing, like, recently James Tallarico is getting a lot of attention, and he became, like, he is the Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate election, for this year's U.S. Senate election. And he's not just a Democrat, he's actually, like, he is progressive, and, like, he has good viewpoints in a lot of areas. Like he's not a fan of Christian nationalism. He really doesn't like Christian nationalism. He does support... It does seem like, from what I've seen, that he supports like LGBTQ rights, which is good. And he did get a lot of attention and a lot of popularity because he was going to appear on the Stephen Colbert show, and then the people who are the owners of the Stephen Colbert show, because they're like heavily in favor of Trump, they tried to get it. They said that Colbert, you can't air this interview with James Tallarico. So Colbert, who's very not happy about like Trump trying to send Trump and people just kowtowing bowing to Trump and just letting him censor whatever he wants. Colbert just like released the interview on YouTube, and then even made a video like, "Hey, we weren't allowed to air this interview, so we're releasing it on YouTube," and that very much helped Tallarico's voter base. So. I don't know if Tallarico is the best Democratic nominee we could have had, because I haven't gotten the chance to look too deep into like who the potential Democratic nominees are. And I'm trying to focus on getting out of here. I'm trying to focus on getting enough money together and getting out of here as soon as possible, because our voting for the Senate is going to happen in November, and I'd really like to be out of this place by then. I'd really like to be out of this area before then. So it's just a piss off. But yeah, as compared to... Tallarico does seem like... I'm not sure about all his... I don't know his position on all issues, but he does on a lot of different issues. He has a good position on a lot of different issues. And he seems to be a lot better than Ted Cruz and Corwin. So just to piss off the Texan voter base, I almost want the ballot to have he, him, and he or hers next to people on the ballot, but only on the Republican candidates. I've now picked up watching a second podcast. I used to have only one, which was Castle Super Beast, but I started watching a second podcast called Behind the Bastards, which is basically just like a podcast talking about like the lives of some of the worst people in history, and like why they ended up that way. And one thing I have learned from it is that basically the reason, like, a good answer for why we're in this current situation is people will support a thing that will hurt another group of people, even though that supporting that thing will hurt them as well. It's one of the reasons, like, a good example is why haven't we gotten universal healthcare yet? Because there's a lot of people, because a lot of people have been tricked into thinking, like, oh, but if you get universal healthcare, that means they get universal healthcare. You don't want them to get universal healthcare, do you? I'm looking at the wrong end. You don't want them to get universal healthcare, do you? Which it makes a lot of people go like, oh, but if we get healthcare, then... But if we get universal healthcare, then that means that this group I don't like will get universal healthcare. Even though it's like, yeah, but you get universal healthcare if that's the case. This is already not off to a good start. Yeah, I used up all my stamina really quickly. That was a mistake. Okay, fine. Whatever. Whatever. Gosh. Okay, I'm down to 101 lives left, so if you want to see... Yeah, if you want to give me a better chance of beating this, please consider donating. I only have, like, 101 lives left. Which, if anyone donates, even $1, that will give me a better chance, not just of beating this game, but also of getting through Donothon Arc 2. Because however many lives I have remaining is how many lives is going to go into Donothon Arc 2, whichever wins that voting pool. Oh, to talk about a more positive thing compared to the things I have, to what I was recently talking about. Okay, well, this is kind of positive, but kind of not. So I got my latest paycheck on Friday, and it was significantly more than what I got for my first paycheck, because my first paycheck only covered, like, the first 4 days I worked. whereas this next new paycheck covered like a full 2 weeks. So I was very happy to get this paycheck, and there were like a couple things I really needed to buy. So I spent that morning buying them, and I was like, okay, that's it. That's everything I need. That's everything I need. I should now save up money and hopeful because I don't think there's anything else I need to get. Oh, by the way, I should check to see. You know what? Let me check to see if there's any games I need to update on Steam. And I was immediately hit with the Steam Spring Sale, where like half the games on my wish list were on sale. Half the games on my wish list were on sale. Some of them even as low as like $2. So I had to get some, but I couldn't resist not getting some. Also, Scorcher, welcome in. Hope you're doing well. Hey, Scorchers, I'm good. How are you? I really want to beat this thing. I really want to just stop. I really want to be done fighting this. If I just beat this damn orphan... Which is a horrible sentence to say outside of context. But if I just kill this orphan, and then go and kill Gurman, that's it. I'm done. I can put this game down. I don't have to play it ever again. And I could go on to play something that's more fun, or actually that'll either be more fun or less fun, depending on how well those Donothon Arc 2 goes. And whatever wins it. really don't know how to get rid of that lightning. Finally! Oh my gosh, finally. Oh. I don't care. Die. 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 Fucking die. I don't care. Die. There. I lit the lantern. I killed it. Yay. Let me be done. I want to get out. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore.
Sweet child of Kos returns to the ocean. A bottomless curse. A bottomless sea.
I want you to just imagine... They're putting it very nicely, but I want you to just imagine just, like, Shirley Brewing grabbing Orphan of Kos and just, like, yeeting them out into the ocean. Just like, just get out there. I show no I should probably be showing more respect to this corpse, but I do not care right now. Gosh, okay. Finally fucking done. Ugh. Alright. Oh my gosh. That actually was a pretty good boss fight. I was just getting tired of having to do it so many over and over again. And I'm really ready to be done with this game. Yeah. I'm ready to be done with this game. But yeah, that actually was a really good boss fight. What I'll probably do, if I can beat Gehrman early enough, what I'll probably do in this stream is try to rank my favorite, like, rank all the bosses I fought in Bloodborne, and, like, rank all the areas I visited in Bloodborne. And then after that, I will, well, it's gonna depend on how long it takes me to beat Gehrman, but yeah, however long after that, X-Scourge says, the greatest day shall be remembered. Oh my gosh. A-Scourge says, great job, bro. You locked in and kicked his ass. Oh my gosh, yay. I'm done. Wait, was that it? Was there, like, no ending like that for the DLC? Is that it? Is that really the end point of the DLC? You just, like, okay, send its curse back into the ocean and then you just kind of leave? Is there something else I need to do? A-Scourge says, that's it. Gosh, well, really? After all that, that's it? Well, this is... Okay, well, this is Bloodborne. This is Bloodborne. The game that can start a section really well, but cannot end it really well. Well, it ends it well sometimes. Sometimes it ends it really well, sometimes it doesn't. I'm having very mixed opinions. I'm gonna come away with from this game with very mixed opinions. Escort says, I mean, would you prefer another Lawrence? No. What I mean is, like, I was expecting, like, a bit more of a cutscene there. Or, like, a bit more of a cutscene or just an acknowledgement that I beat the DLC. Instead of just, like, okay, short cutscene, you beat Orphan of Kos. Okay, go out. Okay, that's it. Okay, so... Alright, all I have left to do is just beat Gehrman. All I have left to do is beat Gehrman. So, if you haven't yet, make sure to donate in case you want to give me more lives to fight Gehrman. Especially direct donations, those help me out the most. And if you haven't already, make sure to go vote in this poll. Make sure to go vote in this poll to decide what Donothon Arc 2 will be. Sleep says, I think one of the things Souls does really well is the elation that players feel when they beat a boss that has taken time. I heavily disagree with that. It depends entirely... Okay, I don't heavily disagree with that. I somewhat disagree with that. Because it heavily depends on the quality of the boss fight. A good boss fight? Sure, yeah. The good boss fights in this game, like Maria, Orphan of Kos, Vicar Amelia. Let's see, what else is a good boss fight in this game? Murgo's Wet Nurse, that was a really good boss fight. Yeah, the really good boss fights in this game, yes. The bad boss fights, not really. I was just like, okay, I just want to get this over with. Hooray, I did it. Now, hooray, I did it. Now let me just go. Okay. I'm just gonna go straight to challenging Gurman. But we only have... I'm gonna go straight to challenging Gurman. But we only have about... Oh, dang, that's pretty lovely right there. But... remember, make sure to get your votes in for the poll. Slim says, you had quite the visceral reaction to beating Gascoigne. Did I? I'm pretty sure my reaction was like, oh, yay, I did it. Hooray. Because that's been my reaction to quite a few of the bosses. Is like, when I beat Lawrence, it was just like, oh, okay, great, I'm done. Don't have to do this again. Okay, but anyway, so, yeah, I'm gonna go talk to Gurman here, and then we're gonna start the boss fight for Gurman, and that will be the final boss fight for this game. And after I beat him, that will be the end. And then if I can beat him with enough time... So, okay, after I beat Gurman, it's gonna depend on how much time you have, but I'm gonna try to do, like, a ranking all the bosses I fought in Bloodborne, and then a ranking all the areas I visited in Bloodborne to kind of get, and also talk about my final thoughts on this game. Although my thoughts on this game are probably pretty clear for anyone who's been watching this playthrough. After I do this, then after that, if I have enough time left, we're 2 hours into this, we're almost 2 hours into the stream. So if I have enough time left, after beating Gurman, then I might go ahead and get things set up to start Donothon Arc 2, or I might just play something else if it takes me like the majority of the rest of this stream. We'll just have to see. Hey, Scorcher says the time has come. Okay. Well, I'm just going to explore around here a little bit, because I never got to see around here. There's a lot of gravestones and a lot of crosses. And a big tree. Well, From Software do love their big trees. Oh, one of the games that I was like, okay, no, one of the game I mentioned that they're like, I was really tempted to buy a bunch of games once I got my paycheck in. I was really tempted to get like the Steam version of Elden Ring, but I thought to myself, no, that will take up a lot of space on my computer, and it's going to be some time before I get to play that. And I probably would prefer to have the PS5 version of that game anyway. So Sekiro as well is also on sale, but I was also like, okay, no, I want to get the PS5 version of that game, and also that will probably take up a lot of space on my computer if I get it. Oh, like the gravestone, there's so many gravestones here, they're just like buried into the rock, or just buried into the ground. Very nice field here. Okay, I'm gonna wait to talk. Yeah, I'm just gonna explore around a little bit. This is a really great like final boss area. Yeah, this is like it being right next to like the Hunter's Dream, so it's kind of been right here for the whole time. It being like this big area with the moon in the background. Like this is some prime wallpaper. This is some prime computer wallpaper material right there. This too as well. Both, actually, if you look at it, okay, from either angles, you got Gurman in the middle with the big tree in the middle, and then you got like the burning workshop on one end, and you got the moon there. Sleeper says Sekiro's only 25 gigabytes on PC, and I think it's roughly the same on PS5. I did see that, but the thing is, I have Marvel Rivals and Baldur's Gate 3 on my computer, and those take up a lot of space. And so the rest of the space on my computer is already stuffed full of like smaller games. And also a bunch of files that I need to keep, and like files I need for like game development, and programs I need for game development, and sprite art. Basically, I prioritize getting for bigger games like Sekiro, or like really any FromSoft games. I prioritize getting those unless I like need to get it on unless I need like an emulator to play it. unless I need an emulator to play it, I prioritize getting like these bigger games on my consoles because I use the computer for things besides playing games. Slim says, I have these 2 huge games, so I can't play anything else. It's not just the 2 huge games. There's also the probably like 50 different emulated games I have. Yeah, at this point, I probably have like 50 different emulated games on my computer. And then also, then there's the 46 other games I have on Steam, and like the 10 other games I have on GOG. I do have a lot of games on here. Okay, I'm gonna try this once. We're gonna see how far I can get on my first try, and see if I can maybe even possibly beat him on my first try. I don't think so. Because I've never fought him before. But yeah, we're gonna see if I can see how far I get on my first try, and if I can't beat him on this first try, then I'm gonna go ahead and go to a break. Now let's go ahead and. All right, let's end this.
Good hunter, you've done well. The night is near its end. Now, I will show you mercy. You will die, forget the dream, and awake under the morning sun. You will be freed from this terrible hunter's dream.
I wonder what, like, waking will actually do. Okay, so we're gonna refuse, and I'm gonna fight German. But yeah, I wonder what waking under the sun, like, where will I go? Will I just, like, go into Yharnam where the other hunters are currently? But yeah, for those wondering, I didn't get the umbilical cords.
Dear, what was it?
I didn't get the umbilical cords, so this is gonna be the final boss fight.
Or the horrible dream? Oh, it doesn't matter. It always comes down to the hunter's helper to clean up after these sorts of messes. Tonight, Gammon joins the hunt.
Okay, here we go. Ow. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, he's entered his Bankai. That's a really cool visual. I'm done! I'm done! It's over! I never have to play this game again! Yay! And now we get this ending. Oh, like the helmet actually has like a skull underneath. That's cool. Yeah, I didn't get the umbilical cord, so this is gonna be the ending we get. I feel that this ending would be like the kind of best ending to go to, for Shirley Brewing. Gross. Oh my gosh! Finally, hooray! And I have 101 lives left. I have 101 lives left. Ace Scourge says, and you did go under 100 lives. That's actually a pretty cool visual. There.
And so, the hunt begins again.
Oh my gosh. Finally. Yay. I did it. Hooray. Okay. So this makes this... Okay. That makes this playthrough number 192. It took me so long to get through. Gosh, I'm finally done with this. I was playing this since November. Okay, so overall, I get this is sort of a case similar to Final Fantasy VI. I get why people really like it, and I get why so many other developers were like, why so many other like artists and developers were inspired by this game. And I'm willing to bet we're gonna get an entire subgenre of games inspired by this game. But that being said, I am also really glad I played it. I am really glad I played it. And that, especially that I played it on stream. And glad that I played on stream, because I would have had a lot. I did enjoy parts. I did enjoy quite a bit of this, and part of that was because I played this while streaming. Yeah, part of the reason I enjoyed this, or a huge part of the reason I enjoyed parts of this was because of me streaming this playthrough. It was really nice. To like play this while talking with y'all about like all these different areas and what's going on in this game. Yeah, overall, this game has the problem. This game has a similar problem I have with Dark Souls 1 when I did that one on a charity event, where it's got an amazing atmosphere, an incredible atmosphere, but part of this is, but it's really part of it at points. Part of it is really janky to play, and then part of it is just like I don't like the. Part of it is I don't like how the game does its RPG progression. Yeah, I don't like how the game does its RPG progression. I think, like, the idea of doing, like, every time you level up, you add a point to one stat. I think that's a brilliant idea. I think that's a really great idea, and it does a great job of, like, making the player, like, okay, really consider what you want to do here. But when the game is designed to where you only really have two options, like either you build your character towards strength or you build them towards skill, or maybe you build them towards arcane or blood tinge, but you're not really going to have a lot of stuff there. Like, that's great like, I can see why people who've played this 10 or 20 times, why this is a no-brainer to them, and why they like that. Because after you've played this game once, and after you figured out that's how the game is supposed to work, like, this game would work really well for, like, different builds. But for someone playing this for the first time who doesn't know this, because I try to go into the game playing it, I try to go into the game playing it with, without spoiling my stuff on stuff so I can learn how to play the game, it's really annoying to find that out. Okay. But yeah, I do think the atmosphere and the story of the game is great. Like, the story, it's a From Software story, so you really have to, like, you have to find the story. But that does work for this game, because it's like, it's a game where it's like, you're all the playthings for gods, and there's secretly, like, old gods are just using this entire city as a plaything for their own whims. So it works pretty well that it's a game where it's like you don't know the full story because it's being hidden from you. I also think it was pretty brilliant of the I think it was pretty I kind of want to go back and watch the trailer. I kind of want to go back and watch the trailer for this. Yeah, I want to go back and watch the trailer for this game. Because I'm curious if the trailer at all hints at the big twist that this is actually, like, full of, like, eldritch, that this is, like, the Lovecraftian... Basically, one of the reasons why I think this game works really well I think one of the reasons why this game is considered, like, one of the best Lovecraftian, like, pieces of media is because it hides the fact that it's a Lovecraftian piece of media. It hides the fact that it's a Lovecraft game. Usually Lovecraft games are very upfront that, hey, this game is based on on the works of H.P. Lovecraft. Like, it'll be like the Call of Cthulhu, or like, very clearly Shadow over Innsmouth. This game is like, oh, you're fighting werewolves in London, and then, like, halfway through it switches to, psych, you're actually fighting Cthulhu. The werewolves were made by Cthulhu. But yeah, no, I probably should check to see if... I probably should check to make sure I didn't disturb my parents with me yelling there. So I might have to do... I might take a short break to just, like, before we watch the trailer and I rank all the areas and all the bosses, I might take a short break so that I can, like, check to make sure that my parents aren't worried because I was yelling. We're gonna watch through the rest of the credits, though. Sleep says, you have to count votes too. Yeah, let me check. Okay, let me check. So, we will do that after I'm done. Oh, right, I'll need to close the poll. Okay, so let me just go ahead and close the poll. Not accepting responses anymore. If you didn't get the chance to vote, that's too bad. And we will... Okay, I'm going to take a short break. Well, let me see where I end up, and then I'm going to take a short break, and...
Good. All signed and sealed.
Oh, it's immediately back here. Oh, okay.
Now, let's begin the transfusion. Oh, don't you worry. Whatever happens, you may think it all a mere bad dream.
That actually does kind of... Okay, wait, that's not Gurman, is it? That's someone else. Now that I look at it. Yeah, that doesn't look like Gurman. I thought it was at first, but... Okay, we're gonna wait until I have control again, and then I'll get out of here. So says it's Shirley, kind of. Ah, you're right. Shirley Brewing, she's back. She reactivated, so now we have Shirley Brewing too. So says, well, it's you. Gosh, what a grotesque look for a werewolf. They did a great job in making these things look horrifying. But yeah, the... Oh wait, I still have my armor, don't I? Well, it looks kind of like I still have my armor.
Ah, you found yourself a hunter.
And we're back. Okay. Yeah, I do actually think, now that I've beaten the game, I do think that actually is, like, if you don't beat the, if you don't get the true ending, you just getting taken right back to the beginning of the game is actually... I think that actually does kind of work for this game, because, like, the whole, like, yeah, you accept you didn't leave the dream. You didn't leave the dream. Okay. So, I'm going to take a short break, and then when I get back, I'm going to... So this is the ending, beating the Moon Princess actually feels worse. Okay, you'll have to tell me about it, and then I'll read it out in the chat, and then I'll read it out when I get back. But yeah, I'm going to take a short break, and when I get back, I'm going to rank bosses from this game, rank areas from this game, and then we're going to see what the, won the Donathon Arc 2 duel, and then I will get things set up. And then I will get things set up for that Donothon Arc 2, and we might just, because we're not even halfway through the stream, I might just go ahead and start it. So yeah, we'll probably start Donothon Arc 2 right now, or in just a second. So yeah, be right back. Okay, I'm back now. Slip says, the ending beating the moon presence actually feels worse, because by slaying the moon presence, you become it, and then you wake up and you're here. Oh, well, that does kind of suck. I had to take a break. I had to take a break to go pet Sylvia because she was yelling at me a lot. So Sylvia doesn't meow when she wants food or companionship. She yells. It is a long unending yell that she makes. Okay, so hold on. First things first, now that I've beaten the Bloodborne, we're gonna do the Bloodborne now I'm gonna do the Bloodborne not victory lap, but I'll say yeah, not Bloodborne victory lap, but basically just a couple extra things. First thing, let's see this. Yeah, first thing, I'm gonna watch the trailer for I'm gonna watch the trailer for Bloodborne to see, like, if it does give any sort of hint that it is does it give any sort of hint about, like, the nature of the game, like the actual twist of the game. Hold on, so I'm just gonna watch through this because it's like the debut trailer. I don't know if this is the announcement trailer, but actually, let me not do it for full screen. And then I'll rank bosses and the areas in Bloodborne. Oh, also, I did see that a couple of things were announced today. Basically, that, like, we got some more character announcements for Tokon. That the second team is gonna be like basically Spider-Man plus Guardian. Well, it's called Amazing Guardians, but it basically looks like just like Spider-Man and friends, and then also one Guardians of the Galaxy member, because it's Spider-Man, Penny Parker, Miss Marvel, and Star-Lord. The more interesting announcement was, for me at least, was that Jam is coming to like, they showed off Jam for Guilty Gear Strive, which makes me, when she arrives, I kind of want to. I've been looking for a reason to return to Guilty Gear Strive, and Jam showing up might be a good reason to do so. So really just the debut trailer was just like the opening movie that they show before the title screen of Bloodborne. So yeah, it's really just the opening title movie. So yeah, it doesn't really, all this really shows is just like hold on, I'm gonna look up like more Bloodborne trailers, because this is just, I've seen this trailer like a bunch of times. Oh, there's Lawrence's skull. And there's, I'm guessing, a really big beast. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna see if there's any other trailer, like a gameplay trailer. Okay, gameplay world premiere. Although, let me just skim through this first before showing it. This... Okay, yeah, so the trailer for this game... Okay, so it seems like the trailers for this game really just focused on showing just, like, Central Yarnum up to Gascoigne. Up to the fight with Gascoigne. Which really, that's all you really need to show. Like, by this time, Dark Souls 1 and 2 had released. And so, like, From Software had already gained, like, a reputation... Had already gained, like, some of their reputation by then. And so them just like that, really, that's all. You just needed to show that first area with Central Yarnum, and that would have gotten people's attention. Okay, now next. Okay, so first I'm gonna rank. Yeah, let me rank all the. I'm gonna first rank all the bosses in Bloodborne, and then I'm gonna rank all the areas. So. I think this one has more of the bosses, so like all the bosses, so I'm going to show this. Okay. So let me set this up how I usually set it. So F tier, D tier, C tier, B tier, A tier, S tier. Oh, actually, okay, no. I need to change one thing. So S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier, F tier, didn't fight. Now let me change up the colors for this. So just going by, okay, which bosses did I not fight? Okay, that's Amygdala, Bloodstar Beast, Celestial Emissary, Cleric Beast, Abrietus. That there is Gascoigne, German. This is... Oh, that's Lawrence. Living Failures, Ludwig, Maria, Ligarius, Mergos Wetners, Mikolash, Mood Presence, which I did not fight the Mood Presence, Orphan of Kos. Okay, Dark Beast Pearl. I fought Dark Beast Pearl, but I didn't beat him, so I'm going to count that as didn't fight, just because I didn't beat them. Shaziardum, Rom, One Reborn, Vicar Amelia. I don't know what this thing is, so I guess that means probably didn't fight it, and I don't... That looks like the Queen of Yarnum, so, and I didn't fight her, so... I didn't fight her, so she's going in the didn't fight. Okay, so... Looking through this... Actually, hold on, I'm gonna... Yeah, looking through this... okay. Where I'd put some of the bosses. So first, I'll go down with, like, the order these are showing. Well, actually, let me go, like, which ones I just want to talk about first. Okay, which is a Hemwick? I'd put them in... Or no, you know what? Let me go in order that I fought them. Yeah, I'm going to go order that I fought them. I'll just have to remember the order. So first, of course, is Gascoigne. I'd put him, like, in... I'd put him in, like... It's either C tier or B tier. He is a good introduction to the difficulty of the game. Yeah, he is. Sleep says, I think you only missed the Moon Presence. Oh yeah, Parl. Yeah. Yeah, he is a good introduction to the difficulty of the game, but he wasn't exactly that. I kind of just got tired of fighting him. I guess I'll put him at C tier. Again, he's a great like introduction to this game, to the bosses of like he's a great. Like, the Cleric Beast is the first boss I fought, and I'd probably put them in a B tier. I think Cleric Beast is a good first boss for this game. Because it's like, okay, it's not them. It's like, you've already seen beasts. Now you see, like, just how bad the beast can become. See what happens when one of the people who's been fighting the beast becomes a beast. And then, like, that's a good first boss. But they're, like, the optional boss. The first, like, boss you have to fight is Gascoigne. And I think he's also I think he is a good introduction to, like, what's happening in the game. Because you're also fighting him. It's like, you actually get to see, like, a really skilled hunter turn into a beast. But, like, you get to see it happen, and you see, like, oh yeah, these hunters can turn to beasts. However, I just got, like, after a time of fighting him, I I just lost interest in fighting him. I just got to a point very early on where I was just like, I just want to move past this guy and go to another, and like I just want to move past this guy so I can get more into the game. And the problem is that because he's the first boss you have to fight of the first area, that means you can't really go out of the first area until you beat him. So you can't. In my case, I couldn't really like leave. Oh, I'm just gonna check YouTube chat for a second. Yeah, I couldn't really leave and check and go down another route when I was getting tired of fighting him. I just had to fight him. Okay, so that's C tier. Okay, next, let me put. Okay, I put the Bloodstar Beast. I'll also put them in C tier. I think they are a good. Yeah, I don't think they're as good as Gascoigne. They are a good challenge, a good different kind of challenge. This really fast, speedy beast with poison. I think them having poison as an element actually does work, because it means that you have to if you haven't been paying attention to poison, now you really have to pay attention to it. However, I just don't like that when they get. I don't like that when they get into their second phase. They like the whole area around them starts poisoning you, because it means that. Yeah, I don't like that the whole area around them poisons you. I just don't. I get why they added that there, but I just don't like it being there. Okay, next is Vicar. Next is Vicar Amelia, who she's gonna go. I'm gonna rate her as probably S tier. This was the fight. This was the first boss I really fought that I like really enjoyed fighting, and I love that it kind of takes what they did with the cleric beast, which is like, okay, yeah, the people of the church can become these beasts as well, and then it adds on to it's like, so here's what happens when one of the heads of the church becomes a beast, and she's still like a nun. She's still like there's still shades of her being like a nun there, but also she's now a giant werewolf. And like I died to this boss a ton, but yeah, fighting her, like her being this giant like almost a kaiju sized werewolf was really great. It was a really great way to make her like, okay, it was a really great way to like show that she's corrupted and transforming into a beast, while also separating her from Gascoigne, who like you fight him in the first phase, he's just going crazy. He's going crazy, and then he becomes a beast in the second phase, and now you're fighting her right as she becomes like a giant beast. Then okay, next, I have to look at who I fought next. Oh, Witches of Hemwick was next. Them I'd put in D tier. This is kind of starting the big problem I have with this game bosses, where every time there's like every time in this game where you fight multiple things at once instead of a single boss, this game just like all the different ideas they have for that, just none of them work. Witches of Hemwick, I think is like it's a simpler I think it's like it's a good boss to kind of like make things a bit different, and that you're really just like searching around the whole area for these witches, and then once you find them, you just stab them a bunch of times, and then you gotta search for them again. I think it's a good idea for a boss fight to make it stand out from the other boss fights. However, it's just like it's not really that noteworthy. It's really just like it's really a fight that's a precursor to the problems of Mikolash, where it's like you're not really in this epic, interesting fight. Or like against these witches who are corrupted by the blood or by insight. No, they're just kind of like hiding around. You just gotta like find them and then stab them a bunch, and then they disappear again. So you gotta go run around and find them and stab them again and don't. And yeah, it's not as interesting as it could have. It's a good idea, but it's not as interesting as it could have been. Speaking of interesting ideas that were not executed well, Shadows of Yharnam. I'm gonna put okay, you know what? I'm gonna put Shadows of Yharnam. I might put them in F tier, because after beating Vicar Amelia and getting to the Sneck Forest, full of all the Sneck people, where everyone is a Sneck. And then you get to and after fighting your way through the Sneck Forest, where there's like all these big poisonous snecks around, and you get to the end, and it's 3 guys in robes. It's 3 guys in robes, and they've got they're carrying weapons you can carry. And so, Like, that was just from idea alone, that was really disappointing. If it was one of them, and then like halfway through their fight, they transformed into like a really like a big snake monster, then it'd be a lot more interesting, I think. But because it's 3 of these guys, and then like their second phase activate, and they're just like, oh, they have snake heads now. Their attacks get longer. You're still fighting 3 of them at once, and it's not really that fun. Yeah, because like most of the times I fought them, I was just getting mobbed, and then like the one time I beat them was like I mobbed them. I basically like summoned help and had him distract 1 or 2 of them, and then I just like rushed the other guy, one of the guys in the corner, and just like kept beating him up until I killed them. And then I went to the second one and I did the same thing, just kept beating them up. I pulled them away and kept beating them up until I beat them. So yeah, I just for what you like, the boss you fight at the end of this big like horribly corrupted forest, and especially after seeing like how cool they could make the people turn to beasts with like Amelia. Yeah, these are just really disappointing. Okay, next next one I fought was, I think it's Rom, and Rom, I guess I'd put Rom. Okay, Rom is definitely not going higher than D tier. I might put them in. I guess, you know what? I actually might put fighting Rom below fighting the Witches of well, no, I'll put them above fighting Witches of Hemwick. The story, Rom's story importance does a lot for them in this game. Does a lot for it, carries them hard because they're like, okay, they're actually like holding back the true world, this true world for what it is, and you don't get to see what the world actually is unless you beat them. And you go into here, you fight this big, what looks like a big spider beast, because it looks like went through the area with all the werewolves, and then you fought the werewolf beasts with Gascoigne and Amelia. Then you went through the snake forest, and you fought what should have been snake beasts, but they're just these guys in hoods that should have been snake beasts with the Shadows of Yharnam. Then you go through the bug area where everyone's been turned into bugs, and you get to Rom, and they look like a giant spider. So I would think that, oh, it's another beast who's hiding out here. But then you beat him, it's like, oh no, they were actually much bigger than a beast. They're something much different than a beast, and you can kind of see that with like how their style, how their fighting is very different with them like backing off and summoning ice torrents. So yeah, their importance to the story and the lore, it carries them hard because they're really insufferable to fight. You're not like halfway through the fight does Rom start fighting, and the entire time of the fight you're basically just like running around Rom's tiny little spiderlings who are able to 2-shot me, and so I just had to kind of keep running around them, and then just like get to Rom, and she just keeps summoning them, so it just got really like it got really old really fast. Again, like this game's big problem in boss design is every single variation of you have to fight multiple things at once doesn't work out. Every single one of the variations of what they did doesn't work out. Okay, next. So the next boss I fought was I'm trying to remember. Oh, next one might have been the One Reborn. I guess I'd put the One Reborn like, I would actually, okay, I'm gonna put that in C tier below Bloodstarved Beast, just because I really don't remember much about the fight with them. Like the One Reborn is, I remember their name, and I remember there was a giant pile of flesh and skulls, and I remember that I had to kill the bell ringers before I fought it, but like they had a lot of shock value to them. But for being what is like the first boss that you fight after the world shifts, and after the world shifts, they're really not that impressive. Again, it does like have shock value and just how disgusting it is, but when you get past the shock value, there's really not much to them. They weren't like, they weren't an awful fight, which is why they get higher than Rom. Well, I guess Witches of Hemwick wasn't an awful fight, so I'd actually put that in C tier as well, yeah. Yeah, let me move these around. Witches of Hemwick is definitely better than One Reborn. Because they, like, their fight was... It wasn't good. Their fight wasn't good, but it wasn't awful. And it was, like, mercifully short. Compared to this, which this fight with against One Reborn, that's just long by its very nature, because you have to kill those 6 Spellringers before you fight them. Basically, it feels like the One Reborn, like, they had a really big arena where you fight this thing, and and you have to get rid of the Spellringers first. But it feels like maybe they could have put a different boss here, and it would have, in that arena, it would have worked better. Like a different, really big boss in that arena would have worked better. Okay, next. Who's next? I forget if after this point. Oh, this might be where I fought. Okay, I think this was after this point was when I visited Castle Cainhurst. In which case, I would actually put Ligarius in B tier. He was a really tough fight. And visually he looked like he should have been in Castlevania. Not really, like, he didn't really mesh visually well with these other bosses here. But basically fighting like a blood wizard, and you getting to see like what arcane abilities and like what people could actually do with the blood, and also the fact that he did fit the area he was in really well, and that it was like a it was a castle full of ghost ladies, and he was like this undead wizard who was like guarding the whole castle. So yeah, I actually would put him in B tier. And it was it was a really tough fight, but it was an interesting sort of different fight because you had to deal with basically like this thing casting spells at you the whole time. Blood spells. Okay, the next who did I fight? Okay, I think then after that I fought... It might have been Ludwig, I'm not sure. Ludwig is going in... Ludwig's also an S tier, I gotta say. Like, the story of, like, okay, you fought humans as they turn into beasts. Now fight a beast that has become the most beast. Fight the beast as it becomes the most beast. Actually, I don't think I would rate him higher than Amelia. I think I would rate him right below Amelia. Yeah, fight this beast as he becomes the most beast. Or fight this beast who has become the most beast, and he slowly regains, like, a little bit of his humanity enough while fighting you, and you gotta fight him. And then he becomes a sword-wielding horse monster. I think, that really was a really good... Like, thematics-wise and fight-wise, that was really good. Because they made him just this disgusting horse monster, and then at the very end, you actually have to have a sword fight. In the second phase, you have a sword fight against this disgusting horse monster. I don't think I enjoyed fighting him as much as Amelia, but yeah, I do think it was a really good fight. What was not a really good fight, though, was the Celestial Emissaries, who were going at F tier. My gosh, why did they take just a normal enemy and make them a boss? And why did they take like 50 of them and just make them a boss? That fight sucked. I was just fighting a mob of normal enemies, and then one of them got big. Okay, sure. Sure thing. Why did... I get that it was like, I know that it has lore importance. That's like, hey, this is what happened to all the researchers at that really scary building. This is what happened to them. But it's like, okay, why couldn't you just put them like throughout the building? Why couldn't they have just been shown like being throughout the building instead of just like taking all of them and cramming them into this one boss fight that really wasn't good? Ebrietas, though, is like, that's an A tier. Her story significance, that like the beast, like the elder god that inspired the church, she was hidden behind this entire, like, the idea that the elder god who inspired this whole church, she was behind the cathedral I visited like a couple of times already, and she was just kind of hiding out there. And it's just how, like, and the fight that she doesn't even really try to fight you, you have to initiate the fight with her, because she just doesn't care. and is only defending herself. It's a really nice kind of like change of things, because usually these things are like raving monsters. They're like, it's on sight. They try to kill you as on sight. But this time, I actually initiated the fight with her. So yeah, I'd put that one in A tier. Let me see next. Okay, next. I think next was Lawrence, which Lawrence is also... Lawrence is... I'd also put him in C tier. Yeah, I'd put him in C tier, like... maybe below Gascoigne, because a lot of my problems with Gascoigne are really just the fact that when you're fighting Gascoigne, it's the only thing you can do is fight Gascoigne. So I just got really tired of fighting Gascoigne really quickly. And his fight is special because it's like the first hunter. You get to... the first crazed hunter you get to fight. But after fighting like 13 other crazed hunters, it's like, oh, okay. Like going back to fighting Gascoigne, I wouldn't feel as special. The reason why I'm putting Lawrence in C tier is like, I like the idea they had with Lawrence. Where like, hey, let's take the very first boss you fight, the Cleric Beast, and then remix him to make like a spicy chicken variant that would like fire all around him. But okay, well, like, if this is Vicar Amelia is like, she's the leader of the church, I'm assuming, and Lawrence is the first vicar. I feel like they really could have given him a more unique design, especially for like, he's clearly significant. Like, it's Lawrence's, like, from what I know, it's like, if I remember correctly, it's Lawrence's skull that Amelia is praying to right before her boss fight. Which means that, like, even amongst her, the current vicar before Shirley Brewing killed her, Lawrence is important. And so for a guy that's like that important, just making him like just the Cleric Beast again, but he's on fire, that is, it feels like they really could have done a lot more. I think like making him like just like a boss with fire element with a fire elemented boss is a really cool idea, but it does feel like they could have really done more for like him being such a apparently really important character. Also, the second phase where it's like he loses his legs and he's just spewing out lava, that was kind of annoying to fight, because I was like dodging his swings and then also dealing with the lava. That just got annoying. It's the same reason why I have a problem with the Bloodstar Beast. It didn't like, okay, yeah, it was a challenge, but it was like there's a difference between a satisfying challenge and like a challenge that just gets annoying. Speaking of a challenge that is annoying, why the heck did they bring the Celestial Emissaries back, but it's the Living Failures? I guess I'd rank the Living Failures above the Celestial Emissaries, because even though the Living Failures is just the Celestial Emissaries again, which is like, out of all the boss fights to duplicate, why did you bring back the worst one? But I think in one of the worst ones, but I think in Living Failures, at least it's not just a basic enemy, but there's 50 of them. It's like you have to fight 4 of these bigger monstrous humanoids, and the fight's not good. Because again, trying to fight multiple things in this game at once is just, for the boss fights, just doesn't work. But at least it is not just a normal enemy, but 50 of them. It is like, these do have a unique design. Okay, the next, okay, Mikolash, also F tier. I'd guess I would actually put him... Okay, Mikolash is definitely worse than the Shadows of Yharnam, because at least the Shadows of Yharnam is a fight. I can see what they're trying to do. You know what, yeah, I'll put Mikolash above... the Living Failures, because this is at least an original idea. It's like, okay, you're fighting a guy who is fully gone mad in the world of the... You're fighting a guy, like, who is connected himself... I think he's, like, connected to the Nightmare world. Because I remember that, like, I think I interact with his corpse in order to, like, enter the Nightmare of Mensis. So it seems like he's in control of it. And so they have an interesting idea that's like, okay, here's a human who is like fully arrived at the realm of the old gods, but you just kind of chase him around for a bunch. And I get what they're going for, because they're like, because it's like, okay, you're going, like, you get the semblance of going insane because you're chasing him in like endless corridors after endless corridors. But it didn't like that's what they were going for, but it just really got annoying after a while. It was just like, well, no, like really quickly, it just got annoying. And for like the showcase of here's a human who has like fully interacted with this nightmare realm, like a higher realm of existence. Time to show what he can do. Like, let's show what he can do. And the answer is just run away and like has 2 attacks. No like monster form, no like casting insane spells. No, just he runs away. That's it. He connected with. He has reached the realm of the elder gods, and now he's just a cat. And now he's just running away. That's it. Okay, then next, it's funny how for a lot of these cases, in the areas with multiple bosses, the first boss is always terrible, and the second boss is always a great. Like, okay, Nightmare Mensis' first boss I fought was in that area was Mikolash. He was awful. Murgo's Wet Nurse is great. I'd put Murgo's Wet Nurse at like an A tier. Yeah, Murgo's Wet Nurse is amazing. Just a really great like fight against one of these elder beings. You getting to actually fight an elder being who is it's not like a Abritus who's an elder being, but okay, she's even more threatening than a Abritus because while Abritus is like is also an elder being, Murgo is clearly like a warrior elder being, and she's like got this Grim Reaper visage to her with like this bird cloak with like her bird cloak and multiple arms and like turning into shadows. She's got a really cool style to her. But yeah, it's funny that for all the areas with multiple boss fights, the first boss fight always sucks. Celestial Emissary sucked, but the first boss fight always sucks, but the second boss fight is always great. Celestial Emissary sucked, Abritus was great, Mikolash sucked, Murgo's Wet Nurse was great, Living Failure sucked, Maria was amazing. That's just kind of funny now that I think about it. Okay, as for me, Maria's probably my favorite boss fight in this game overall. Just because a lot of these boss fights are going in these areas because of my particular experience fighting them, and Maria was basically like a rival character because her fighting style was kind of similar to what like the play style I gave Shirley Brewing. So it was like 2 dual sword wielders fighting each other, and so it felt like the closest I've gotten to like a rival fight in a From Software game. And it was also just a really amazing fight. It's also a really amazing fight. Like she's got 3 phases. So like I had to really pay attention to her sword swings, and then like her other phases just added stuff on her sword swings. First giving her longer blood blades, and then also like catching the blood blades on fire. I'm gonna check something here. Yeah, catching the blood blades on fire. That was really cool. And yeah, out of all the bosses I fought in this, Maria I think easily was the best. Just for she was the most set. Like even like when there were some bosses like Ludwig and Amelia that I was like, okay, I fought them. Or Amelia is the only boss in this game that as soon as I lost to her, I was excited to go. Even when losing to her, I was excited to go fight her again. And just immediately dove back in so I could try fighting her again because I knew it would be fun. Okay, the next Amygdala, I guess I'd put Amygdala in B tier. I didn't really get to experience much of the fight because I killed them really easily, but fighting this big great one after having to deal with these Amygdalas crawling around and shooting at me throughout my entire, after the nightmare happened was cool. It was nice to fight one, even though they were this one was very different from the ones that were chasing me around. And it was like cool to fight a great one, but I'm just putting it in B tier because I mean, really all I had to do, and this was probably because I was so strong at this point, but really at this point, all I had to do was just run in between run next to its legs, and just like I could easily avoid most of its hits there. I don't know if that's just because I was that strong, but I don't know if it's just because my character was that strong at that point, but yeah, it might have just been because I was that strong, but still, really. But yeah, still pretty fun fight. Okay, Orphan of Kos. I'm gonna put them. I'd probably put them at an A tier as well. I think it's a great final boss fight to end the DLC on. Nowhere near as good as nowhere near as good as Maria or Ludwig, but getting to fight like this infant old one on like just this beach as like the final most difficult fight in the game was really, it was a satisfying way to end the DLC. Well, mostly satisfying. And it was a I was excited. I did get excited to fight this boss, or like, okay, I was partially excited to fight this boss, and then also just partially at this point. By the time I was fighting them, it was just them and Gurman left, so I was just also just kind of ready to get to end this. But yeah, they do feel kind of different from every other fight in the game, just because of how insanely brutal and like how insanely like fast they are and brutal they are. And then Gurman, I guess I'd put Gurman... I only had one fight against him, but I guess I'd put Gurman at a... maybe a B tier? I didn't really get to experience much of their fight because I fought them once. No, I'll put them like bottom of the A tier. I do think they are I think they were they're a solid boss fight to end this on. Yeah, they were a solid boss fight to end this on. Like, where it's like, okay, the latest hunter, must now fight the very first hunter who partially started all this. And I mean, the area where you fought him was really cool. And also, like, it makes sense that after all this game of like being led around and manipulated by all these different elder beings, it's the one guy, turns out the guy who, turns out one of the guy who sent you into this dream who sent you out to hunt things in this dream, he was also manipulating you. And yeah, he made a good like last boss fight for this. So yeah, I think that's where I'd rank all the boss fights for this game. Just yeah, didn't fight these four, and then like celestial failures. I was calling them. I mixed up living failures and celestial emissary, but yeah, celestial failure and living emissary. Those two, and then Mikolaj and Shadows of Yharnam, F tier. Ramen, D tier. One Reborn, Witches of Hemwick, Bloodstar Beast, Lawrence and Gascoigne in C tier. Cleric Beast, Amygdala, Logarius in B tier. Gurman, Abritus, Kos, and Murgil's Wet Nurse in A tier, and then Ludwig, Amelia, and Maria in S tier. So that's where I'd rank all the bosses for this. Now onto the areas of this game. And I won't take... Okay, we're already halfway through the stream, so I'm going to not take too long. I'm going to not take too long with this so that I can... I'm going to not take too long with this so that we can get to starting the next... I can get to starting, like, the Donothon Arc 2 and getting things ready for Donothon Arc 2. So... looking at this. Okay, so first area. Let's see. Central Yharnam was the first area. Okay, actually, let me add a row below. Okay, Central Yharnam was the first area, and I would rate that. I'll correct these as two. Yeah, I would rate Central Yharnam as a. Okay, I would rate Central Yharnam. It's a really good introduction. Okay, Central Yharnam is a really good introduction to this game. And, like, to the initial area of this game with all the beasts. But it also, it wore out its welcome quickly. It wore out its welcome for me quickly. So I guess I'd put it in, like, a B tier. It does a great job introducing... like the hunt and the beasts and the beasts and like the initial area and like how much is in the initial area. There's a lot, but it does like after a couple runs through it, I was just tired of going through it and like wanted to move on to somewhere else. Okay, Hunter's Dream. I mean, Hunter's Dream is like S tier because that's a perfect small little area. It feels kind of, you feel kind of safe because there's no enemies there, but it also kind of feels unsafe because of like you're clearly in some sort of like Eldritch realm. And also the final boss fight being there was great. Cathedral Ward. I had trouble getting through, like, figuring out where to go at some points in Cathedral Ward, but I probably would put that in... I guess I'd put that in A tier, because Cathedral Ward, it's like, okay, it's more Central Yharnam, but instead of just, like, the hunters and the beasts, it also brings in, like, the church servants, and you really get to see, like, the church. And, like, what the church has done to this area, and, like, how much control they have over this area. Old Yharnam, that's going in... Old Yharnam's probably going in D tier. I just got really tired of Old Yharnam pretty quickly. It does have, like... It is kind of interesting at first to visit, but then just, I just got tired of visiting. I just got tired of that area very quickly. Ioseska's Clinic. Okay, I'm going to put Ioseska's Clinic in, like, C tier, because I just didn't really spend much time there. I didn't really get to spend much time there. There might have been, like, I think there was an alternate path, alternate choices I could have made that would have made the, So it says, how much of Central Yharnam is because you just had to run through it back to Gascoigne? That is a good consideration, yeah. Yeah, I think part of my dislike for Central Yharnam is just like, or part of my, not dislike, but part of the reasons I don't rate Central Yharnam as highly is like, yeah, just after a point, just run. Again, it sets a problem I have with a lot of this game is it set when I enter a new part of this game, it sets a really good opening note, and then like it sets a really great opening note, and then I go through the area, and then I die. I was like, okay, but I can get to reach, and I go back through the area, and like I die a couple more times, and by the fifth or 10th time I've died, I'm like, okay, I've seen this area, I know what all is here. I'm just gonna. It doesn't excite me anymore. Sleep says, like, you penalize Gasworm for being an early boss before the game opens up, and it feels like you're penalizing the area just for being tutorial town. Not penalizing it, because again, I said, it's like, it really does a great job at introducing the game. And, like, what the game's about. But Cathedral Ward is also, like... Cathedral Ward is similar in design to Central Yharnam, but it was a lot more interesting to explore through there. Okay, okay, where? Upper Cathedral Ward. I guess I'd give Upper Cathedral Ward... I'd give that, like... On the one hand, Upper Cathedral Ward feels like it could be a bit longer. On the other hand, it does do, like, it is, like, supposed to be a horrifying place. It is, like, a horrifying place to visit. Like, you don't... Yeah, I'll put it in A tier, because up until, like, after visiting, like, once I visited Upper Cathedral Ward, it's like, oh, shoot, now we get to see, like, the base for the church, where they were. And we get to look down on all these other areas I was fighting through. And also, like, this is where, like things have even up here, things have clearly gone wrong because there's all these like squidmen and like werewolves here. Yeah, Upper Cathedral Ward, like, it does feel like one of the scariest areas, and it intentionally leads into the horror at some parts. But also, it's got the Celestial Emissaries fight, which is the worst fight in the game, and it does feel kind of short. Bergenworth. Bergenworth I'd put in like... Oh, welcome in. Hold on, let me just check to see. Welcome, Master Cube, raiding with the party of one. So, welcome. I did beat Bloodborne. I beat Orphan of Kos and Gurman, and I finished ranking all the bosses I fought in Bloodborne, and now I'm going to go through I'm ranking all the areas. You know what? Bergenworth I'd probably put at, like, a C tier as well. I do feel like that area could have been longer. Because that one is really just, like, running around. That one is just, like, running in a circle around the school building, around the research building, then going into the research building, and then you're just right at ROM. So there's really not that much of that area. For what was the Bug Beast area? For what was the Bug Beast area, there could be more to that. Forbidden Woods. I'd put the Forbidden Woods... Okay, that one... Despite how difficult that area was, I would put that in A tier. Yeah, okay. Forbidden Woods reminded me reminded me a lot of Resident Evil 4, like the opening village of Resident Evil 4, and I do love Resident Evil 4. Yeah, I think Forbidden Woods was... I'd actually put... I'd put that... Yeah, I'd put that a bit higher. So it says, Brawl, if Bergenworth was 50% longer, do you think it would have been better? I think what could have been done, okay, if Bergenworth and, the lecture building were combined, I think that would have worked. Okay, basically this game has, two different, university building, messed up university buildings. And I know that, they're for, and I'm guessing that it's, for two different, two different groups of researchers, but I feel like if they kind of combined the two of them, it could have actually worked a little bit better. I'm actually going to put lecture building here as well, because again, yeah, I think like if they took these two shorter university buildings and combined them into one big university, that could have actually worked better. Oh, the research hall. Okay, as an well, research hall, I'll get to that in just a little bit, but... Hemwick Charnel Lane, I'd put that in B tier. As okay, yeah, I'd put the Hemwick Charnel Lane in B tier. Where all these, where it's all these people, all these witches. I did die a lot. Well, I died a lot in all these areas, but yeah, in Hemwick Charnel Lane, I think Hemwick Charnel Lane, was a pretty decent area. To go through, with all these witches around, and then again all these witches around, that expanded out into this big graveyard area, which was really rough to go through. But Slip says you died 575 times. Well, yes. Dang, I really did. I died 575 times. My goodness. Gosh, now that I'm looking, I just realized that I'm looking at it, and yeah, I died 575 times. Oh my gosh. Okay, next, okay, Forsaken Canehurst Castle. I'm putting that in S tier. I am putting that in S tier. That area, okay, I had a lot of trouble in the Canehurst Castle, but it both felt very different from the other areas because it was this gothic horror castle. So it felt like a return to what the game was at the start, which was werewolves in London. But it also, it still felt like this it worked really well with Bloodborne, where it's all these. It worked well with the in-universe stuff. For a Bloodborne, oh hey, these are ghosts, and I'm seeing them because I have insight. Basically, Upper Cathedral Ward and Forsaken Canehurst felt like they were the areas that lean most into horror out of all this game's areas, and I think Forsaken Canehurst Castle did it a little bit better. Okay, Yahar Ghul Unseen Village. I'm gonna put that at. I guess I'd put that at... I don't know. Okay, maybe B tier? Yeah, maybe B tier? Yahar Ghul, it's a decent area, but there's two sides to it. There's the side where if you visit there by getting snatched, by getting kidnapped, in which case you're stuck in a prison, and then you have to... You're stuck in a prison, and you have to get out, and then you can run into Dark Beast Parl, and that part's okay. And then there was the part after I visited ROM, where it's the blood moons, all the amygdalas are around, and everything's going crazier. the amygdalas are like actually actually attacking me, and there's like enemies from previous areas are fighting me. You know what? Actually, I will put this in A tier. I'll put this A tier. I'll actually put that above. I will put that above these other two. Yeah, I'll put that above Upper Cathedral Ward and Cathedral Ward. I'll put that above that because since after you beat Rom, you're dropped in Yahar Ghul. Okay, I'm putting it in like I'm putting Yahar Ghul here just for what happens after you beat Rom, because after you beat Rom, you're dropped in Yahar Ghul, and it's like the enemies that you've previously been fighting, they come back and they're now stronger, and now they can actually just respawn, and you've got enemies from multiple areas who are hunting you down, like all these, like that thing that grabbed me this one time. This thing that grabbed me this one, or tried to grab me this one time, they are now actively, instead of just grabbing me, they're like actively hunting me. And like now they're also all these like enemies from previous areas, they're also like hunting me down. It was a really good Sleepless, they respawn because there's an enemy making them respawn. Sleepless, I played through the area, I know that. But yeah, the fact that it's like, that area was a great way to introduce like, oh, you thought things were messed up before, things are really messed up now. You thought things were bad before, now they're really bad. Okay, Nightmare Frontier. I'd put Nightmare Frontier probably... Okay, Nightmare Frontier, I'm going to put it as C tier. And that's just because Nightmare Frontier seems like it's... Okay, Nightmare Frontier feels like Nightmare of Mensis and Fishing Hamlet, but it feels like a lesser version of both of these. Yeah, Nightmare Frontier feels like a lesser version of both Nightmare of Mensis and Fishing Hamlet, because it's got a lot of the same enemies. It's got a lot of the same enemies from those areas. And it's not as long as, like, Nightmare of Mensis. And Nightmare of Mensis has, like, multiple sections to it. Nightmare of Mensis has, like, multiple sections to it. It also didn't help that I played a little bit of Nightmare Frontier, and then I went through the majority of the game, and then I beat Nightmare Mensis, and then came back to Nightmare Frontier. So I fully experienced Nightmare Frontier after going through Nightmare Mensis, and it just didn't feel as cool. It just kind of felt like a less interesting Nightmare Mensis. Which that area, I'm gonna put that in B. Okay, I'm gonna put that in B tier. Nightmare of Mensis, I'm gonna put in B tier. I think the multiple sections of it is cool. I think that it has like multiple sections is cool, and of course like, and like it being this full nightmare realm you have to explore is cool. But dang, that frenzy. The constant frenzy. Like, there were some terrifying enemies in this game. Or there were some of the most scariest enemies in this set were in this section. And it really did feel like I had entered into, like, a nightmare realm. Into, like, a horrifying Elder God realm. But dang, that frenzy, though. The constant frenzy was just, that was a pain to deal with. Okay, Chalice Dungeons I didn't really get through, so I'm just going to play as... I'm just going to leave the Chalice Dungeons as, like, a... I'm just going to leave the Chalice Dungeons as didn't go to. I went to one Chalice Dungeon. Which I used to build up Blood Echoes, and that's really it. That's all it. Yeah, that was really it. So I can't really rate that. Hunter's Nightmare. I'm going to put Hunter's Nightmare... That's going... I would put Hunter's Nightmare... I'm gonna put it in S tier, probably. I'd probably even rank it a little bit higher than Forsaken Cainhurst Castle. Yeah, okay, yeah. Because, like... Hunter's Nightmare... being like, oh, this is the area where all, like, I died a ton in Hunter's Nightmare, but it was supposed to be like, okay, this is the area where all the night, this is where all the hunters go. This is the hell. This is a personal hell. This is a personal hell for all the nightmares. Pokemon Cube says, oh, how many attempts against Orphan happened today only? 10. And I beat Gurman on my first try. Also, hi, Pokemon Cube. Thank you for the raid. Yeah, I would say Hunter's Nightmare was really difficult to get through, but as like this even more warped version of Cathedral Ward, that's where that is a personal hell for the hunters. I think it actually did that really well. And the final boss it was helped by the final boss of that area being like one of the first, like the leader of the hunters, who is now got like gets a little bit of his humanity back in his fight with you. I think that worked really well in his favor. Research Hall, I'd probably put that in A tier. I'm gonna put that. Yeah, I'll put that above Forbidden Woods. I'm gonna put Research Hall above Forbidden Woods because it was a fun area to explore. And it was like, okay, Research Hall felt like what Bergenworth and the lecture building could have been. This big building where they were conducting inhumane experiments on people. They were conducting inhuman experiments on people to serve some nefarious goals. Like this, yeah. Research Hall felt like what Bergenworth and lecture building should have been. It was the full potential of what these two could have been. And lastly, Fishing Hamlet, which I'm gonna rate that also in A tier, probably above, or probably. Well, by this point in I reached Fishing Hamlet. I was ready to be done with this game, but I'll put it above Upper Cathedral Ward, because it was the game going full Lovecraft, like full Shadow over Innsmouth. Like the developer, instead of these developers doing their own take on their own unique take on a Lovecraftian area, this was fully like, okay, this is an area where we are paying full homage to Lovecraft. To Lovecraftian elder gods, and they did the fish theme really well. So that is okay. So that is all the. That's all the bosses ranked, and that is all the areas ranked. So, looking at... Okay, let me look at the responses for the Donothon Arc 2. And the responses are... So, Donothon Arc 2, the final result is the winner, by a very wide margin, is XCOM 2 Donothon. All but one of the votes were for XCOM 2 Donothon. So, that is where we'll be going. Let me get things set up and changed around. And then, yeah, we will just go ahead and jump on in to the XCOM 2 Donathon, and I will let people know that that's what's happening. Pokemon SQ says, also you mentioned a nightmare's nightmare. Don't you get started on new Zets about that? I've been saying, Pokemon SQ, playing Bloodborne and Zets at the same time. Alright, playing Bloodborne and watching Zets at the same time, it is funny how much overlap there is between these two things. Slim says, XCOM 2 on hard? Yes. XCOM 2 on hard with a limited number of lives. Get ready. Amelia says, wait, on hard? Yep. See, I have played a little bit. I did play. So says, no, wait, I was memeing. Amanda says, I regret my decision now. Well. So says, I thought you were going to be on standard low. Okay, well, we'll take a look at the options. We'll take a look at the options and see what the options are, okay? But yeah, let me get things set up. And then I'll switch over to, and let people know that I'm switching over to XCOM 2. But yeah, so that is the end of the Bloodborne Emergency Donathon. That is the end of the Bloodborne Emergency Donathon. Thank you. Well, actually, okay, hold on. I'm going to back out. Sorry, okay, I know I just started that, but I'm going to back out here for a second. Do you want to say... I was saying this throughout the playthrough, but I want to reiterate. So even though my opinion on Bloodborne was very mixed, I am going to delete this game off my PS5 as soon as this stream is done. I definitely enjoy. I'm glad that I did this on stream. That I finally played through this game. And I did it on stream, because doing it on stream where I could talk with y'all, and like interact with y'all, whilst it definitely made the experience of the game better. Also, again, to everyone who donated, because I only made it through this because people donated enough for 600 to give me 76 lives. Thank y'all for all the donations. The donations will still be open. Remember, I've got like 100. Still have 101 lives left, and I'll be going with those into XCOM 2. However, any donations would be appreciated, because any more donations would be appreciated, because it'll help me. The more money that gets donated in, the closer I get to getting out of my current situation, and it'll also count towards these donation goals. And oh wait, hold on. I just realized I never. Okay, yeah, there we go. Yeah, thanks to that gift by Amelia Quintara yesterday. Yeah, we are now $75 away from the next donation goal. So, yeah, if you're able to, please consider donating. But, okay, I'll be right back. And then when I get back, it'll be time for XCOM 2 for the rest of the night.